Welcome into Dad's Plane with me, the Unhinged Father. Who is the Unhinged Father, you ask? Might be easier to tell you who I'm not. I'm not some enlightened guru asshole pretending to have all the answers for you. I'm also not someone who's given up on life and decided to become a fatfluencer. Nope, I'm somewhere in the middle. Just a dad, trying to do his best, here to give it to you straight. If you wanted a cute, whimsical dad giving you tips on how to change diapers, you're in the wrong fucking place. If you wanted some straight talk on parenthood, marriage, mental health, finances, morality, or anything else I deem important, then welcome in. Let's have some fun. Well, this week, one of the suggestions that I was given was really going into what makes being a parent worth it. Why be a parent? Everyone always kind of listens to me make these stories that are supposed to be humorous about having children and how it's kind of a pain in the ass most of the time. They were asking, why do you do it? Why should you be a parent? What is the benefit to it? And so, for me, there are definitely a lot of things that I think make being a parent worthwhile. Let me go ahead and list a couple of those for you right now. What are the benefits of having children? Number one, they provide a tax break to you. Number two, eventually they will be free labor. And that concludes our episode of The Unhinged Father today. I hope that you all really enjoyed it. No, I'm just kidding. There are a lot of things that really make having children worthwhile, and I'll kind of dive into those this episode. Having kids has been the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that I've done in my life, and it has also been the most batshit crazy, hardest, draining thing that I've ever had to do as well. Raising kids has been extremely fulfilling, and it's having this responsibility for these little life forms that can't do anything on their own, right? They're pretty much completely worthless when they're first born, but it's your job to really foster an environment to where they can grow, learn, become good people and productive members of society, and that is your job, your responsibility. You no longer are just responsible for your own needs. It's not just good enough to get up in the morning, eat food, piss, shit, do whatever else you need to do. You are responsible for something else greater than you. Now, I've only had kids for about 4 years now, but I cannot remember for the life of me what life was like before that. I'm sure that it was pretty good waking up late on the weekends and sleeping in, drinking whenever I wanted to, pretty much doing whatever I wanted to. I was only responsible for myself. And obviously, I still had my wife. I've been married for about 11 years now. I still had responsibilities to her, but in the end, it was just take care of myself, get sleep, eat food, do what you need to do to move forward. And now that's completely gone. My needs are secondary essentially to the needs of my children. And don't get me wrong, it's fucking hard to be a parent. It is not an easy task to be responsible for these little parasites essentially. And I hear quite a bit nowadays of, I think the term is DINK, dual income, no kids. And it's definitely some way that people can go. People can take different paths down this life, and I'm not someone to sit there and judge them. Although from what I've been hearing, it sounds like DINKs like to make judgment on parents. Like, why would you have kids? That's so stupid. I'm going to sit here and drink my mimosa and not have any responsibility except towards myself and make a bunch of money and go on vacation. Like, that's great. That all sounds fine, and more power to you if that's kind of what you're at. But what I've noticed is that humans, they typically gravitate towards a caretaker role. Even dinks or doinks or whatever the fuck you call yourselves, they still go and get dogs or cats or fish or some other fucking worthless creature that they can take care of, that they can have depend on them, or in all reality, with a lot of people, probably have some codependency with that thing. Humans are naturally gravitating towards taking care of other things, and for me, I feel like having children has really kind of fulfilled that aspect of my life. And so the question is then, why is it that we only hear the negative aspects or the negative stories about your kids? How come we're never hearing all of these good things or all of the beneficial aspects of having children? And you see those, but it's usually some sentimental shit video on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is where they're playing sappy ass fucking Sarah McLachlan movie music or whatever it may be. For me, being a parent is extremely difficult. And even though it's fulfilling and it's great, just like going to the gym or doing a marathon or whatever it may be, it is hard. even if it is fulfilling and awesome. When things are difficult and when life gets hard, for me personally, I fall back on humor. I make fun of everything. If you can't tell by now, almost nothing is off limits. I joke about everything. And so it's easier for me to get through certain hard aspects of being a parent by making jokes out of it and trying to have there be humor in everything that happens, from my kid waking up at 5:20 in the morning when I'm just trying to fucking read and drink some coffee and maybe take a shit in peace, to them waking up at 12:45 with a very intense cough and having to take them to the ER. Whatever it may be, there are so many different things that happen when you're taking care of children, and if you can't find the humor in life, it's going to really suck at a lot of times, and it may be too much for people to overcome. So for me, that's why you hear these negative stories, not necessarily negative stories, but just like these hardships that come along. And in all reality, the good stuff is not always as funny. Like the hard shit truly is usually the funniest stuff that you can find. So yes, on top of these feelings of your fear of completely failing, or your frustration with your kid saying dada or mama for the 5 millionth fucking time in 2 seconds, as my son is calling for me right now to change the commercial on YouTube Baby Shark. Or maybe it's the feelings of inadequacy that come up within you, especially nowadays with social media and all of these superhuman insta moms or insta dads who are just have this perfect life and their kids are fucking amazing and their dogs are supermodels. All of these things can definitely contribute, and they're going to push you to the brink of a mental breakdown. If you are not on the brink of a mental breakdown as a parent, within that first 3 or 4 years of being a parent, then you're probably not doing it right. You're going to be tired. You're going to be overwhelmed. Your house is going to be a fucking disaster. You're going to constantly have these thoughts. Am I doing this right? How bad am I fucking my kids up? Are they going to hate me? Are they going to become serial killers? Am I listening to a podcast of crime junkies right now and listening to my future child on this podcast? No, that's not going to happen. You're hopefully not going to fuck your kids up. You're doing the best that you can, and it's okay. I'm just telling you that it's okay. We all are not perfect. No one is perfect, and our kids are going to do fine. You should constantly be striving towards being the best parent that you can be. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to screw up. And just because you screw up doesn't mean that your kids are destined for a life of picking up hookers on the side of the road and murdering them. You're okay, I promise. Now take all of this stuff, wrap it up. Like I said, this is all kind of the negative or the hardships and all of that stuff. But there are times where your kids just completely melt you into a puddle of, I don't know, love, sappiness. I'm not sure what you'd like to call it. But for me, some of the small examples would just be like when my kid comes in and it's 5:20 and I'm trying to do something and he's waking up way too early, but he just doesn't say anything. He just jumps up into my chair on top of me, becomes dead weight in my arms, and just wraps his arms around my neck and gives me a big hug. And then he'll say, I love you, Dada. It could be bullshit and hard for 12, 14, 16 hours out of the day. And if that kid gives me 10 minutes like that, it's just basically enough to make me forget everything else and make it all worthwhile. Kids are worthwhile. They do some stupid shit, but they truly are amazing creatures. They learn so quickly. They can be so kind and compassionate, and they see the world through just a completely different lens than we do. And I wouldn't trade in the world without having my kids. My life wasn't complete, and I didn't realize it, but my life wasn't complete until I had my kids, and it was complete once we had our first one, and then it became more complete when we had our second one, and now we're a family of 4, and I couldn't imagine this world without them. It wouldn't be a world worth living in all honesty, if I didn't have my kids with me. And it goes by so quick. It seems like it was just yesterday that my firstborn was a squishy bag of skin, incapable of doing anything besides essentially trying to kill himself the entire time, which is great about kids. They are these little beings that can't do anything, but they always try to find ways to speed up their demise, essentially. They find something on the floor, they stick that shit in their mouth or their nose, and I've never met a creature that doesn't want to be here more than small children. And so your job is to make sure that they stick around long enough until their cognitive functions are high enough to where they don't just stick everything in their mouth or in their noses. Now I'm kind of going to pop back and talk about some of the things that I was talking about earlier with the dinks and the doinks. And if your life is all about you, more power to you. In this podcast host's humble opinion, that to me would be a life that is superficial and somewhat shallow. I understand that people say it's great, I get to do whatever the fuck that I want to, but if the only purpose within your life or meaning is I get to get up at 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning and go to brunch and drink endless mimosas until I'm drunk and then come home and binge watch the Real Housewives of Orange County and then go to bed, that doesn't sound like a life that I would want. And like I said, if you want that life, cool, great. Don't give a shit. It's your life to do what you like. But to me, that seems like a superficial and shallow existence and not one that has a true meaning or true purpose. Which brings me to the point of a novel that I read earlier this year, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor was a psychologist who was imprisoned in the concentration camps of World War II. And essentially his thesis, or what he saw, was that having meaning and having purpose is what really drives humans forward. The people that he saw who didn't survive in the concentration camps were those who had given up, who didn't have purpose, who didn't have meaning in their lives. And those people that did have a higher meaning, a higher goal, for example, someone wanted to be able to teach, I think, their kids or their grandkids something, or wanted to be able to, for Viktor, it was his life's work. He wanted to be able to give that to the world, his thesis, his theories. And so having that purpose, having that meaning is really what drives us as human beings and tethers us to this world. For many people, that meaning, that purpose is having children, is eventually someday having grandchildren. We don't really get to leave or take anything with us when we leave this earth. And the only things that we really get to leave that will have any lasting impact will be our families, will be our legacies. That meaning for me, that purpose for me is raising good children, raising kids who are going to be productive members of society, ones who are going to be free thinkers, ones who are going to do good. I want a child that when he sees an injustice or she sees an injustice, that will say something, that will stand up for it, that won't just sit by idly. I don't want to raise a kid that sees a mugging going on in the street or some sort of injustice going on in the street, and the first thing they do is grab their fucking phone, which is what most people do nowadays. I want to raise kids that are going to run towards those injustices and try to make it right. Have courage and be good human beings. That is the most important thing to me, and that's the legacy I want to leave. And eventually I would like for my kids, if they decide to have children of their own, to be striving towards that with their kids and to continue on this legacy of good people within our family. I hope that one day when I'm old and decrepit and can't do anything anymore, that I have family around me, that I have lots of grandkids and my kids around me, and that's ultimately where I picture my life. Those are the things that make me happy. Those are the things that get me excited, is this idea of having big gatherings for Christmas, for Halloween, spending time with my kids. Someday, if we have them, spending time with my grandchildren, growing old with my wife. Family is truly everything to me. And everything that I do is for them. And that is my meaning. That's my purpose, is to raise a good family and to be good people. And that's what tethers me to this world. That's what makes me do everything that I'd like to do. And ultimately, even though a lot of that is stressful and hard, and I'm pulling my fucking hair out and getting gray hairs in my beard and all that other shit that goes along with it, family is my happy place. That's what makes me happy. That's what makes me fulfilled. And that's what makes my life full. Now transitioning to the unhinged portion of this show, a little bit of a rant this week regarding parents on Instagram. Just the most fun thing ever, essentially me. Except what really kind of drives me crazy is when I see these videos, and it can be influencers or it can be normal people, whatever it is, when parents see their kids doing something that's either inappropriate or dangerous or just ridiculous, and they film it and they're sitting there talking on the camera like, oh my God, my kid is playing with a 12-inch butcher knife. Oh my gosh, they're just so out of control. And what do? They're just filming it. It's like, no, put down your fucking camera, go grab your child and tell them that they're not allowed to do that. It's crazy to me that parents' first response whenever their kids are doing, I don't know, something dangerous or something they're not supposed to, is to pick up their camera and pretend like they have no power to change it. Like their kids are just going to do whatever the fuck their kids are going to do. I get it to a certain extent. Kids do just do whatever the hell they want to do, but it's your job as a parent to help guide them, to tell them no, to make sure that they don't fucking grab a butcher knife and play with it and chop their goddamn fingers off. Do your job as a parent. Don't pick up the fucking phone, don't pick up the camera and record your kid doing it. And then before you even have the chance to, clean up the blood from them slicing their hand open, you've posted it to Instagram and are looking for the 4 million likes or whatever you're looking for. It's just fucking ridiculous to me, which kind of goes back to my point earlier, is that nowadays everyone's first reaction to anything is to pick up their phone, video it, because there's this hope that things will go viral, and as opposed to actually taking action, being a good goddamn human and fucking trying to make things right. An example that I've seen, and I think we've seen this all the time, is like the kids that get into paint and just put paint all over the fucking house and all over themselves. To me, it's like, I don't know if you've ever tried to open a paint can without a hammer and a fucking screwdriver, but that shit is damn near impossible. And I'm a 270-pound man who is relatively strong, and I can't open a can of paint without those tools. How the fuck did your 3-year-old open that up? No, that means that you left it out in an area where they can get to and you weren't paying attention and they got into it, right? So that's kind of on you to have that happen. Secondly, is that when you walk in on your kids covered in fucking paint or up on like a shelf in paint and you pick up your phone and you start recording it, like, come on, that paint is toxic. It's not good for them. If it gets into their eyes, it's going to burn their eyes. If they get it in their mouth, which I said before, kids are constantly just trying to fucking kill themselves. They're going to stick it in their mouth. They're going to eat it. You're going to be taking a trip to the ER here pretty soon. Go into the room, stop them, clean them up, make sure that they know that they're not supposed to be doing that. This is your job as a parent. It's not your job to record them, make it be like super cheeky, and then post it online for everyone else to see. Take care of your kids. Stop using them to gain social media clout or whatever it may be. Like, kids are not here for our entertainment. I mean, they are entertaining a lot of the times. I hope that you get my point here. It's that these parents almost seem like they're setting up these bad situations for their kids to be in. And then instead of being parents and stopping them from doing this bad behavior, they just record it, think it's funny, and then they post it on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok for the likes, for the gram. That's not beneficial to your kids. Be parents. Take care of your kids. Don't have pulling your phone out and recording something be your first reaction to everything. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for you. It's not good for society in general. I don't want this society to continue down this path. And I know that, who am I? I'm no one. I'm just some dad sitting in his office while his kid watches Baby Shark Halloween. But I'm going to try and do my best with my kids. And hopefully this message hits some people. And if not, well, then that fucking sucks. And I would say that I don't care, but I do care, because I do care about kids. I want kids to be safe. I want kids to be seen, and I want kids to be taken care of. I don't want kids to become social media exploits and grow up to be the next, Kim Kardashian or Kylie Jenner or whoever else. I'm dating myself. I don't know any of the TikTok stars or any of those other shitheads out there. So that's a little bit of my rant. Hopefully it's not coming across too salty, but that's me. I'm pretty salty. And that'll do it for this week's episode. Hopefully you all had a good time. Hopefully some of these messages hit home with you. This podcast is still growing, still learning, still trying to kind of figure out the direction that we're going to be taking and going with this. But it has been fun to have something to do. Hopefully these messages are beneficial to other people besides me just ranting and raving to my computer in the morning. If you enjoyed it, give me a 5-star review, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. Take a look at the link tree within the show notes. You'll find Instagram page there, the YouTube channel, website, all that good stuff. It's all still really in its infancy stage. There's not a lot of content there, but I'm hoping to have more and more go. And if this fails and I can't get anyone to listen to this, then I'm going to have to start up that OnlyFans where I take pictures of my feet and, squish mud in between my toes. So please don't make it come to that. If you like it, share it with friends, family. If you don't like it and you really despise those people, share it with them as well. But other than that, I really do appreciate you all listening. And shout out to one of my coworkers, Annette, for finally listening to it. Thank you for listening to it. It's only been, 4 weeks since you promised to listen and give me feedback. But yeah, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. This is the Unhinged Father signing out. Be good. Do your best.